good afternoon and a very warm welcome to this post-lunch session. Normally people are sleepy, so we're going to try and make it a little bit light and interesting. I've been here since morning. It's been a very interesting morning for me because it's been a revelation in many ways, and I've come to some realizations. I have a script, but I'm not going to go with the script at all. Um, you know, Bangalore has evolved over the years, over the centuries, into a megapolis today. It's evolved in many ways, and I think it's going to continue to transition as we go forward. Uh, while it does, I think it's very important to have a vision of Bangalore, and that's what this summit is all about. What is the vision of Bangalore? And as an optimist or an eternal optimist, I always think that if we can, any problem is solvable. And we may have challenges, but I think some of the inherent advantages that Bangalore brings to the country, not just the state, but to the country, I think can really become a turning point in many ways. As resources, as weather, as people, as technology, I don't think there is any shortcoming in Bangalore to become like you have the political capital, you have the financial capital or corporate capital of India. Today we call it an IT capital, but nothing stops it from becoming even bigger. And why not manufacturing? Why not much more than what it is today? On that context, let me bring about the first question. How do you envision a Bangalore of 2040? So in your mind, if you were to imagine and say, Bangalore should look like this in 2040. And you can run wild with your imagination, and it's fine. Because I think that's what it is. What we imagine is what we deliver. Ashish, maybe we can start with you.
I think my vision for 2040 would be at the top 40,000 feet. Could we be placed somewhere in the top 5 or top 10 cities in the world in terms of the livability quotient, right? Can we achieve to do that? Of course, that has various layers underneath to be able to achieve and make it to that list. In my view, it is obviously the infrastructure. I think it's the convenience to its customers. The residents of Bangalore are the customers. So livability, quality of air, quality of life, I think public spaces being maintained, somewhere to push people to have that balance between work and personal life. That balance comes from the fact that, can I commute from my office to my house in time? Is there sufficient social infrastructure? Is there convenience? For example, going forward, we talk of connectivity. Will there be free public internet connectivity? Will there be charging stations? So I think it's various filters that are required to be able to make it to that list. And that would be the vision. If that can be listed out, the key aspect is achieving that within the desired time. I think somewhere most cities or most countries lose out because there's a great vision, but the execution, so your milestone is 5 years from now, my requirement is X. But if I take 10 years to achieve that, the requirement has become 5X. And then we complain it's not enough. It's basically the delay in execution. So somewhere I think if that urgency can be, if I have a 5-year plan, I need to be able to deliver that. And as government, as private, I think both parties are equally intertwined in that sense to work together to be able to deliver that. So for the government to first come up with that vision, communicate that to its people, to businesses, define the roles that each one would play in achieving that goal, because we are all beneficiaries, good or bad, of a city. We are all beneficiaries of that result. So I think that would be my wish, and that's the way I would like to look at it. Yeah.
Anderson.
Thank you.
Sorry,
So-
I'll just add a layer. We should add a little bit more about public spaces because that's the theme. The whole idea was to see how this looks like in the context of public spaces.
Sure. So first of all, thank you for having me here. So let me say that what you asked me is a consultant's questions, right? So visioning exercise. We love to envision and put that thing. But let me take a counter view. When we actually envision, we are actually we are envisioning for ourselves. And 17 years down the line, I would not be the right person to envision a city. It's not for me. It's for the generation which are going to come. Okay, so therefore it can never be the people we are sitting here, all of us. It's not our vision. It cannot be, first of all. So let's put little few constraints and then think. Let's go back and say that what will be something which the kids of today, or not even kids, the not even unborn of today, would like to see Bangalore in 2040, right? So that means if I look at the current generation, which is Z or XZ or whatever you want to call it, they today want something which is very, 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 very social, very, 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 very connected. Okay, so that means, and here and now. Okay, the third thing. So that means if all plans succeed, I am looking for a city which is what we usually call as a 15-minute city or a 5-minute city. In that, everything which will enable me to, or the people to connect to anyone in an open environment. I don't need to go to some place private to have a conversation. I should be able to burst into a conversation across the street. So that's one. If the plan succeeds, I'm saying plan, which if we plan today. And if the plan doesn't succeed, the only way the vision will work. So I'm saying if we are planning well and we will succeed in 17 years, that should be the way in which 5 minutes city, it's not going to be 15 minutes, it's going to be 5-minute city. If plan doesn't succeed, which is most likely, so if plan doesn't succeed, the policy should succeed. That means I should be able to let the citizens of Bangalore do what they could be able to do and would be able to do without any compliances on a street corner. I'll just give a small example. Can anybody walk on a Brigade Road, sit on a corner of the street, look at a museum, draw a picture? Now there are few things here, caveats here. Sit, museum, freely draw. Arts, culture, space, and freedom. I'll stop here.
Oh, excellent point. I think we have one of the points in this context during the conversation. Yes.
For a city, how you differentiate a city from a rural area? Cities have traditionally developed because of markets. Markets drive the city. It can be other way around also, which may have happened in our city because of our growth of IT industry. Ultimately, whether it is 2030, 2022, 2040, 2050, if you are looking at 2040, in my opinion, for all the commerce and industry and the various markets which are geared to a primary market of making money, that is the commerce and industry. The industry can be IT, manufacturing or anything, and all the human resources, etc., which are geared up for that, their demands have to be met. So you have to retain. This city has grown because of science, technology, and its edge on IT. The only way it can grow further is on the same trajectory, which I see. So for me, for the vision of this, I mean, if I have to envision this city, up to 2040, we should continuously keep on attracting the best in IT sector. Let them interact in whichever way they want, and we should be in a position to facilitate that. Now in 15, 20 years, whether you will really require 5 minutes physical going, or you will only be doing video conferencing and will be having few rounds around your apartment complex, that is a different matter altogether. It will all depend upon how the technology evolves and our social structures readjust to that. What we think today may be a bigger and wider road, etc., may not be relevant after 25 years. Of course, it will remain relevant because right now we have to do a lot of catching up. So you feel today this is the major requirement and why we are not thinking about this or that. So to that, what we can say that whenever we plan for anything, we should think about 25 years, because all our planning for 5 years have not led to anything. So my thing would be in 2040, 2045, around that time, I still feel that we will grow up to 2050. But so be it, since the session is called 2040, I still feel that our city will be in such a position that we will be able to attract the best. We should be in a position to cater their needs, mainly the needs for technology. The human resource which comes requires, their kids have to be educated properly. They require social interaction. So what you are saying, drawing freely on any place, maybe that is also an indicator. So what I feel is, in 2045 or 50 or so, by that time when we are reaching a plateau for the development of the city, because other cities are also growing, thinking that Bangalore will be growing in isolation may not be the correct way of envisioning Bangalore. There will be other centers developing. There will be a constraint beyond which people will not like to come. Like you see the Tokyo's growth, you see the Seoul. People don't reside there. Friday, Saturday, they are all running out. Friday afternoon, they're all running out of the city. So all the mega cities, if we have to draw some examples, we should be in a position to come to some levels, and those levels we will be achieving by 2045 or so. And that is the time, and beyond that, it will be only a maintenance function of infrastructure, of various type of infrastructures. Till that time, we have to catch up and go and do beyond it. So when we are catching up, we should not be stuck with this potholes and some widening of few meters of road here and there. We should think about acquiring more land, various methods of innovating and taking the public infrastructure to a notch above. But also think that maybe that may not be required in the changing circumstances in another 10 years. We should also be ready what is required for a generation 20 years ahead. So I had some opportunity to listen to the heads of technology and science. And if they focus on various technologies, we may not be so much emphasizing on physical infrastructure that much.
Oh, that's a fair point. I mean, I think technology can disrupt anything, and just sharing of information. And today we talk about the digital stack of India. Why not a digital stack of Bangalore? And what it can change, bring in so much efficiency within the existing infrastructure. Fantastic point, sir. So the next question is more towards, this city gets its population from all over the country. And every city in the world has its own unique culture, identity, where people come and adapt to that culture and identity. And a lot of it is defined by public spaces in that city. How do we, and what do we do exactly in different spheres that you are, from consulting point of view, from a developer real estate point of view, as a government body, what should we do exactly to ensure that we have a strong culture? There is a history and there is a legacy of Bangalore. How do we ensure that all of this incoming population and everybody that is coming into the city evolves and adapts to that culture, and how do we do our public spaces to ensure that happens? Ashish?
I'll just take a few points from the previous discussion. I completely agree. I think 2040, the priority is going to be social infrastructure. People are going to put a lot more emphasis. We're already seeing that. I think if you go back 2-3 decades, our fathers believed in working 24/7, right? Today, if you speak to someone today, he says, weekend, I will not open my computer, right? So they're realizing that being social is important for their personal well-being. Coming back, when you take the whole connectivity, today with 5G, you have fiber optic cables all over. I think you may not require roads that wide. Coming back to Bangalore, and this is just personally my thought, I think we are at a position where we can define the culture today. I'll tell you why I say that. I think today, over the last 20-25 years, we've had people from across the country come here. Yes, Bangalore did have a culture back in the day, right? But today, with it being as cosmopolitan as it is, indulge me, I think we can mold it in a certain way. So that flexibility, I believe Bangalore has, because if you see the percentage of old residents versus the influx of new, I think it's fluid right now. So as a visionary, what should we focus on? Saying work-life balance, social infrastructure. I think one thing that India as a country or cities within India lack is sports. You go to the US, there's so many things you can do for entertainment. Here in Bangalore, it's unfortunate, or in India for that matter, it's unfortunate. The only thing as a family you can do is take your family to a mall, walk around, watch a movie, come back home. There's no other entertainment. I think sports is such a positive influence on people's behavior, on stress. at the intellectual level as well. So should we build more sports centers in the CBD? And as we go along, there's a book called Death of Distance, where it talks about the internet connectivity, and people will stop coming to the CBD. They will live in micro suburbs. They will video conference. The only reason they would come to the city center is for entertainment, which is entertainment and sports. That's the only reason they will come, to socialize. There is no other reason why I would want a building on MG Road and pay 400 rupees a square foot to keep a banking office. Today, I don't know in the last 5 years, how many times has anyone visited a bank physically? If I go back 10 years, I think our fathers went to the bank at least once a week. Today, everything is on the app. So there is no more reason for businesses with this whole virtual connectivity. I don't mean the metaverse yet. I think the success of that is highly questionable, but I'm just saying with internet connectivity, today everything is on your fingertips. You don't have to walk into a physical shop. You don't have to walk into a bank. So you will see businesses walk out to suburbs at the back end, residences like the US. So micro suburbs will be set up with their small infrastructure. The major sporting and entertainment events is what will move to the CBD. And I think people will put a lot of emphasis on that. So as a city, I would say, if people agree with that vision, is to build more social infrastructure. It may be theaters, it may be plays, it may be sports centers, whatever the case may be. I think that would be a big push for the people.
Excellent point, Ashish. Thank you. Anything? Sir?
Okay, I will say. When I said that the markets developed the cities and people have to interact, the first thing is the space only. The whole hospitality sector grew because people from all over various places were coming and meeting. So they have to eat, they have to sleep, and all sorts of entertainment. So that was the ecosystem requires that you have to have sufficient unwinding places to unwind yourself. So that cannot be even with our too much of technology, etc., which can of course obviate the requirement of moving around too much. But still you will require for a fitter manpower, fitter human being to be able to discuss the things, maybe philosophical, allow the right side of the brain to work, maybe drawing, enactment, dramas, all that will be required. My worry is that the way we are growing, we are putting unnecessary obstacles in the places where people could have moved and enjoyed. Be it public, be it private infrastructure, though Ashish may not agree, private infrastructure which is getting developed. And the way the private infrastructure is developing and not allowing the others outside their condominium or outside their apartment complex to enjoy is not going to be sustained. You go to Melbourne, you go to any other place, Canberra or US, see the apartments are standing there, the places are all open. Even your house is not having a fence. But here, even I was yesterday visiting our Chandrasekhar Azad Stadium. Our track is fenced. Our running track is fenced with 8 feet height. This type of isolation, if we have, then where are the people going to interact? You are not allowing them to interact in the classrooms. Now RT also has been a bit toned down. Some section of people are going to some schools. Then the playgrounds, we are running short of playgrounds, so certain areas are being reserved for all other schools to enjoy. But the adjacent school, which is a higher status school, takes over. So the places which are supposed to be used by the public in our laws for any layout, you cannot have a boundary wall surrounding your layout. I don't want to name, but I know the best of the layouts here, whether 50% infrastructure is kept for road and for parks, are not allowing the people to have free access. Where in the law is the boundary wall? So we are ourselves creating certain boundaries, and we should be slightly aware of what we are doing. And in that respect, both the law demands and the private sector should also be following the law in the right sense, so that the spaces which are meant are opened up. Today we are not opening the parks because there is a big debate. I opened the park for slightly longer time because one group of people were asking. Second group is saying you are allowing the students from all over the place to come and smoke in our park. Who are you to tell me all that? You should limit it. Now, so to outgrow various type of mentalities and to grow up to a level where people will be respecting the other people's sensibilities, maybe smoking, other people will think about it. And of course, some sort of law enforcing agency role would always be there. I would give you another example. For the single plot development, we have something called single plot development, which is quite an innovation from the credit point of view, and it allows you to have towers and build the apartments. Now to take that land, around 85% of the land is allowed to be developed. Only 15% is allowed to be given for garden, etc. Whereas for the layouts, we keep around 30%, 25 to 30% as parks, which are also not opened up by putting the fence, which is allowed by the people, no, it's by law allowed. Here we, of course, cannot do it because you are having some towers, which in other countries they have opened up, but in our circumstances, maybe. Can we now say that out of 15, 10 should be in your area, 5% in our planning will be pooled and taken from you? Either you pay for it for TDR, etc., so that we can develop those areas. You will not lose anything. You will still develop 85% of that. But 5% will be toward the common pool of gardens, which will be at least adjacent. We have also a great innovation in our master planning. When we master plan, we make roads and green spaces. Green spaces are the spaces which are supposed to be converted into parks and areas where people can come, meet, play, etc., etc. The rule there is, if you don't develop it for 3 years or 5 years, I think 3 years, if you don't acquire it, then the person who is the owner has the right to change it to whichever land use he wants. So you are happy that it is falling in the green space because government is never going to acquire. We said that we will keep the money for acquisition, for the both for the roads. In the RMP roads also, there are roads we keep for 80 feet, 100 feet, etc. But we never acquire that because we say cost is very high, etc., etc. Then in the open spaces which were meant to be there, if we keep the money for the planning authority, which has nothing to do with the development, they are collecting money for a plan, etc., there should be a minimum expenditure on road acquisition as per their own plan, their road acquisition and their park acquisition. Beyond that, they can do some sort of development. Everybody wants to do development, means it will become a free for all. But we would not been able to enforce it very clearly. If we enforce our laws, land laws, to say that there is no this 3-year or 5-year time, it has to be acquired compulsorily. And you have to come up with some means, either pool the money from the private sector, let them be given more area, like 50% area, what I am saying, to be given in a layout, 40% can be in their layout. Or if they want to put condominium, let us say 25% will be taken away and be put in the common area. Because at this point of time, the sensibility is not allowing it. Maybe at future point of time, we will all become of that stature where we think equally really in our mind. That point of time, we can do some sort of social changes and physical changes accordingly. We can do a lot of things. I think with the industry and the government sit together and without disturbing anything as on today, we can think of pooling the resources to develop the common spaces which should be available for anybody in the city.
I think excellent point. I think this is what talks about public-private partnership. Yes, Ashish, you want to say something?
One point, just a thought that came, when I again compare this to the US. Today, a small city in the US, public schools have sports facilities. I have seen people from the street can walk in the evening and play a game of tennis. It's free. You just walk in. So public schools have all these amenities that are open to the public post the hours of the school, maybe after 6 o'clock, etc. If it is a possibility here where we can identify government parks, wherever feasible, I think we'll have to study the feasibility of it and create more sports facility. Because today when I look at Bangalore city, CBD as an example, I don't think everybody has access to a Bangalore club. These are all highly privileged clubs. It takes you 35 years to get a membership. So I want to know somebody who may or may not have the talent, but wants to explore playing soccer, tennis, or any other sport. He has no option because I have to be a member of a privileged club. Without that, I can't even explore what potential as a child I may have. So if we can include public spaces, and today with technology, they have this app, how you rent cycles on the street in Dubai, in London, in New York, wherever it is. You just take your QR code, do it they take 200 rupees from your thing. Similarly, even for your the gate lock of the sports facility, take your QR code, 100 rupees. Even for the lights, you put your QR code, it takes 300 rupees. The light stays on for 1 hour. So if these kind of public sports spaces, I think we'll have many more soccer players coming out of India, many more Rafael Nadals coming out of India, but people just don't have access to these amenities and facilities. I think that's something that we should really be concerned about and work towards. Sorry.
Very interesting point,
The
Ashish.
sportsman in me had to.
I can see the sportsman coming out there. Yes.
Yeah. No, I want to actually pivot out a little differently. Okay, so I hear what the industry and the government is talking about, and let me actually put a different hat. I think the solution that we are trying to address here is a little tricky. I'll give a example. There is a quality of life created when you create a private condo. Okay, so you have created an aspiration from a group of buyers that this is the quality of life and living you will have. Now you are saying that I want to open it for others, which is good, which is for social benefit, perfectly fine. But before that, the easy win lies somewhere else. The easy win lies is a simple one thing which is not done, and I'm not just saying Bangalore, it's across. And before I answer that, give that solution, but before that, I just want to start where you actually asked the question. Bangalore is known for everyone as an inclusive and embracing society. Okay, it's a city, unlike most of the cities in the country, people doesn't think twice before actually shifting to Bangalore. If I tell my team member, "Tujhe Jaipur jana hai," he will decide 10 times. He'll say, "Let me talk to my wife, kids, this, that." I'll say Bangalore next day. He will not even ask me an increment also. Okay, so that's because it's not about language, it's not about anything. They know that they will get accepted. So that's a social inclusivity is important. Now, in that social inclusivity, when we're actually saying that it's embracing the talent and people, what you need is maintenance. We invest a lot. Capital investment is heavy into the infrastructure. We build the best of the things, but we don't maintain. And we don't actually create homogeneity. So if walkways, sidewalks, whether parks, there's too many public spaces forget about anything else. The lakes which are so unmaintained. Look at one side of the city which is we have lakes which are very beautifully maintained. On the other side, there are unmaintained. So there are so many easy, small wins which can create this city into vibrancy without even going into a difficult problem where you need to actually not just ask the developer, sir, it is the buyers of that condominium who needs to agree, which is a much bigger population who will actually say yes or no, because then you are actually talking to about 2,000, 4,000 families saying that, do you agree to do that? Okay, so those are difficult questions to answer, but the easy to is, can I actually open up Hebbal Lake, which is beautiful today, but can I build similar to Sankey Tank, can I build the walkways around that? Can I actually bring back Lumbini Gardens back into I'm very new to Bangalore, so all those things, can I activate that? Very simple stuff, but not just activating, maintaining it, ensuring that it stay as it is or better than that on a month-to-month basis.
Very interesting point. Just one suggestion, while I'm listening to all of you, I think we can have a Nama Bengaluru card, which I'm serious. I mean, maintenance is usage, revenue generation. You spoke about market drives. Which is the market? The end user is the citizens of Bangalore. What is the biggest concern in opening up these spaces is security, safety, which is why people don't allow it. If you have a Nama Bengaluru card, which is linked to your Aadhaar, you know the fellow. He cannot do anything. You know that, it creates a record of people coming in. And then you charge a certain amount of fee for using the facilities. The moment you do that, it becomes an economy in itself, and then the maintenance becomes much easier, and then you don't have that many security and safety issues because you know who is the person who's coming. Just a thought. Maybe will work, will not work.
Can I take that? Okay, so I'll just give a hypothetical scenario. In the newspaper, there's a news which comes, which says that there's XYZ incident happened on that road. Which is the one authority you will blame? That means it's an untoward incident against a female which has happened on a day. You will first go to police, right? You'll say that police has not done. But if you peel the onion, there was no street light working. Why the lady was walking? Because the bus transport did not come on time. Why the lady has to take that route? Because the main road was dug. So if you see these problems, these are nothing to do with the police. Safety is done when you put the infrastructure properly and maintain it properly. If the lights are well lit, 50% of the problems of the city get solved if it is a well lit city. It is not about how many police people you will put. It's not about that. That's security. There is a difference between a safety and security. Safety is a perception. It's a feeling. Security is what you actually see, what you get. You feel safe when you have places which are vibrant, people are coming. You have a safety when it is well lit. You see safety when people are smiling. Okay? And when transportation is working.
Excellent. Very interesting points. So, I think we've spoken a lot about, what are those actions that one can take specifically in this context. Another point that, and I'm now combining two because I think we may run out of time. So, two questions. One is conservation versus development. It's an ongoing debate. In any city, it forms a policy decision framework, and public action is dependent on some of these aspects. And they're very important for the culture of the city. It's very important to hold the originality of the city in many ways. So that is one point. And the second point is, with this whole increasing youngster population, which we have. Ashish, you spoke about sports, which is fantastic. I mean, I think it's a great point. But, with this increasing younger population, the expectation from public spaces is very, very different. How do you cater to those expectations? What do we do in future? And as government body, as private bodies, as citizens of the city, what do we do? So I'm mixing two questions at the same time. Over to you, sir.
I have so it's like a family, right? You have parents who are aged, who are 70s, and you have kids who are into their teens, right? You actually need to take care of both. You need to actually look after so that's what heritage is about. You have to ensure your heritage and culture is maintained and properly preserved. So Bangalore's heritage and culture has to be preserved. There's no doubt about it.
So specific question I have. For example, when I walk around the city, especially a lot of old part of the city, there are a whole lot of buildings which are beautiful architecture, but not very well maintained and managed. What can we do? What change do we make specifically as a government body, as private individuals?
One simple thing. Increase the footfall, it will improve. How do you increase the footfall? You maintain it, keep it safe, hygienic. People will come. Once people start coming in, there's a footfall. You are forced to move it because the economies will work. The small economy, the people on the streets, and we talked about those acts of the small economy people. Everyone will come. They want to actually sell X, Y, Z. They will keep it, maintain it. See, it's a cycle. If you start something, things will move in terms of managing and maintaining it. More people will come. You're forced to actually start maintaining it, and you preserve it. So that's the cycle you need to run. But the first step is clean it, preserve it, make sure that some people can actually freely walk into it, enjoy that entire environment, not see from outside, and when they go inside, it's all littered and urinated on the walls and everything. So that's not how the heritage should be.
I was going to say the same thing. I think maintenance of public spaces is most important, and I think the answer to that is clear. I think usage. The minute you have a revenue stream there and more people are there, I think the minute it's something secluded, people will tend to vandalize, people will tend to violate. The minute you have enough and more people around, it's brightly lit, it's clean, human mindset, I think they will maintain it. You have a revenue that will happen. Maybe as a model, they need to take up one government space, give it to a private agency, like an IPC, like a JLL, just as a model, and to see how well it's worked. Tender it out. I'm sure there'll be enough agencies coming up, again, accountable to the government, but come up with a simple working model to say, you maintain this space, we do a 50-50 revenue share, right, with the government. And JLL will work out some concept to how to make that space exciting, inviting. People will want to come and spend time there, and it'll be done. I think as far as heritage is concerned, to maintain heritage, I think is, especially in a city, I think Bangalore is one of the few cities in the world where population has doubled in a decade, right? Yes, that puts a lot of stress on the city, on the infrastructure. I think one way to maintain that heritage is to push people outwards, which means making more of ring roads so that there's a horizontal growth of the city, not so much vertical. Vertical growth will put, there's a limitation on how much I can dig under the ground and keep increasing the size of my infrastructure. There is a limit. I can't disrupt traffic, I can't disrupt trains. So the way to do it is to push people outward. But for that, you need good connectivity, you need social infrastructure, public connectivity, sewage connectivity, water connectivity. If that can be a part of a plan, so the population is well distributed and you don't have everyone, 10 million people saying, I want to live on MG Road. I think that's what creates chaos, panic, and a stress on the infrastructure. So I think having that vision and building out that infrastructure so people, like, simple example is, I think, Thane in Mumbai, right? Everybody, so Bandra, Lower Parel, everybody wanted to live there. When Thane first came up 15, 20 years ago, people didn't want to because they didn't believe that there was social infrastructure there. Today, you see it's developed beautifully as a suburb. You're seeing senior bankers who earlier said, oh, Thane is down market. Today, are senior bankers who are living in Thane. Nothing else. The social infrastructure has come up. The connectivity has come up. Today, from BKC to Thane, it takes you 25, 30 minutes. So that is an alternative option. Was that a good point or?
So, over to you.
The city heritage has to be conserved. Now, this is a cliche. I mean, what defines Bangalore? If it is only the old structures, etc., or the way that we live, what defines our heritage and culture? The way the city has lived all these years, and with some, because culture is a dynamic thing, tomorrow it may change, and the culture of Mahadevpura will become the culture of Bangalore. We do not know. That they are saying also there should be a new Bangalore, there should be an old Bangalore. So all that, what defines heritage is very subtle. And if you think that the areas which are very, very historic, symbolic, they should be preserved. And there should be some way of compensating, of not growing that area to preserve that area. So there will be, like in various cities, they have done certain experiments. Also in certain cities, they have said that facade has to be kept like that. In backside, you can develop. So those all things can be thought of. How much you value depends on you only. If the persons here decide that they will not be developing here because that is the heritage aspect of it, there will be some, of course, enabling laws, etc., which can provide that. And that, if that carries it through, so be it. I mean, you should not come there and do it. We may say that we don't want, but we want to put up the project at MG Road only. Then it is putting the things completely wrong. Secondly, the environmental conservation. See, there is a conflict. You are saying you open up the lakes. Lake is a different ball game than park. Park are all artificial, which we have made. Lakes have their own ecosystem. And if you ask the environmentalists, they will say, why are you allowing people to be there even for 4 hours in the morning and evening? So you have to see the balance in the environment. You have to see the balance in the growth vis-a-vis our cultural heritage and whatsoever you consider as heritage. Maybe the pub culture is also a heritage in Bangalore. Then how do you retain it? Whether one pub center at MG Road was this thing, or your breweries around the whole city is the culture. So that, I mean, is a very fine debate, and ultimately the market which tries to settle with some regulation by us. The regulation has to be put by us, and the market will settle it to how much you value, each of these aspects. I will also like to say about the stadia. Yeah, they are required. We have opened up all our parks to any school which is nearby, because schools will not be having enough of space, and it requires space for the students to come and play. So we do not mind our parks or big area, open area being used by a public school or a great private school or a BBMP school. Similarly, I mean, all our stadium are like that. But if you see, very many developments now undertaken by big developers, they will publicize. We have a cricket stadium inside. We have a hockey stadium inside. Whether are you willing to include the good talent outside, or you are seeing it within inside you only? When the whole development of the city has grown heavily on the private side. See, when they say IT has grown, they said besides the government it grew. Beside the government it grew. Hai na? So similarly, you are developing. Besides the government regulation, besides the regulation, you are growing. And you are making so many infrastructure. Why can't you make it semi-public? We are only thinking that as if BBMP will come, government will come, they will open up this space, that space, they will acquire. Even if I take your land, I am taking somebody's land. I have to pay and compensate him or her or anybody. They are also one among you only. So when you are creating infrastructure, I would request, why can't you open it slightly? You are not talking about the condominium getting opened I told you, either I should increase the charges on the condominium. Condominium is not defined in our laws. If we say, okay, you can keep the condominium, you pay this much more. You can keep your lifestyle the way you want. The choice is yours. You have to pay slightly more. You are denying the public spaces and then saying that I have a lifestyle. So you have to strike your own balance in your mind first. Then only you can think about an inclusive city. So anyway, we will be there. We are anyway, BBMP is punching back for anybody. So we will be there with all our might to take those punches. But I would request you that we should not say, besides BBMP we developed, besides government we developed, because then you will have certain spaces flooded by water because you developed besides government.
I think the government should open up a global tender, global international tender, to all the marketing agencies, right? To pitch a campaign to create a sense of ownership in its citizen. Today, if I just go back, we keep our house extremely clean because it's our house. We will wipe it, clean it, and take care of it. Then you go to the condominium outside. I think you're fairly careful of not littering it. But the same person on the road will throw something down. How do you create a campaign? It may take a year, 2 years, 3 years of investing heavily in the advertisement. But can we create a sense of ownership within every citizen where he treats public spaces as his own? It's a hard thought, but I'm saying somewhere to create that sense of ownership, to say this is your city. It's not only the responsibility of the government and the BBMP to take care of it. You are equally an important stakeholder in maintaining that space. So I don't know, open up a global tender with all these interesting ad agencies and let them pitch the government and come up with a campaign, and they can say,
Very interesting.
maybe 2-3 year campaign to let people be more responsible.
Excellent. So, we'll conclude this session. So I'll summarize the points. Livability, cater to the needs of the market. Future is for the future generation to define. Sports, culture, social infrastructure, public schools and sports facilities, commercially making use of these public spaces to create revenue generation and maintenance, expectations from public and private sector, master planning green spaces, planning authorities' budget to enforce the laws. Maintenance and usage, revenue generation is an extremely important point. It kept coming back because safety, security, and all of that is dependent on it. Private players can maintain the common infrastructure. We should do a test model, very interesting point there. Vertical versus horizontal. And of course, conservation of heritage structures. So I wish Nama Bengaluru has got its unique identity over next 15, 17 years. By 2040. We will be one of the cities like the Singapore or New York or San Francisco's of the world. And we will create our unique place in the world. Thank you very much.